Okay.
Okay.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. Thank you for being here today. My name is Amy Bryant of Parenting Beyond Punishment. And here locally in Atlanta, Georgia, my private practice is Wild Child Counseling. And I am here today with Lori Petro, who I'm always excited to work with and join with online. If you don't know Lori, she founded Teach Through Love, which is an online community that I really love. She has videos to watch and blogs to read, and her work is just amazing. One of my favorite things she does is Mindful Mondays, where she posts these sort of, here's what we say, and here's how our children feel about it, and here's what we can say instead. And that's basically what we're going to be talking about today. And I just love this. So, Lori, welcome. Thank you so much for being here today.
Yay! I'm so glad. This is like my third year with you, I think.
I think so.
Yeah, so I always look forward to April because you take on this enormous challenge of bringing all of these speakers together. And she doesn't do it, you guys, like with the team, like these other big summits, and Amy's like at her house by herself.
I've got a dog.
Yeah, it's very helpful in the window. So
Right.
I'm just thankful that you provide this for, my community, your community, and so many other people that get to reach out. So I'm delighted to be here with you.
Thank you. Well, I'm equally thrilled that you've joined me. And this actually might be your fourth one.
Really?
Yeah.
How
Time
many have you
flies.
done? How many years?
This is the fourth.
Oh, it is the fourth. Yeah, it
Mm-hmm.
might be then.
Yeah. Yeah.
Crazy.
Well, we have a big crowd here today. If you didn't hear before, there is a Q&A. Feel free to get in there and write your questions. Tell us the age of your kid. If you could give an example, a recent example, 3 or 4 sentences, that would be great. And then you can also chat, and Lori and I will try to keep up with you as best we can. So, Lori, do you want to tell them a little bit about these communication cards, or should we launch? What do you think?
Yeah, well, we should go. I mean, these cards are really, it's funny because I did these on a whim. I have one set that have been printed now. I'm so excited.
I'm so excited.
It's just so weird to like hold them and I want to get them to people, but we're not there yet. But this idea was I took a picture literally of my backyard in like 2013, or it was on my phone. It was like the ugliest picture of the sky, but it was framed by two like bushes or something. And then I wrote disconnecting words and then connecting words. And I just made up this really quick, like off the cuff picture. And it was like the most popular picture I had ever made, ever. And that was in 2013, I think.
Wow.
And then sometime after that, they sort of became like a regular Monday thing. And then they just evolved and to what they are now, essentially. But I think everybody has this idea like, oh, yes, I want to be a conscious parent, or I want to be, respectful and emotionally available for my child. But what hell do I say in those moments?
Yeah.
Nobody knows what to say. I mean, even me, it was, it's hard to change your language, especially if you come from a very punitive background or very top-down, traditional parent, authoritarian kind of background. Not even authoritarian, but just in that, I will talk to you when you change your behavior, when you're respectful. It's kind of putting everything on the kids. So I think they're just really helpful because it finally gives language to all of these concepts that we've been talking about, but it's hard to shift out of what we used to say. So
Right. Absolutely. That's what the powerful thing is. I think parents are like, but what does that mean? How does that sound?
yeah, exactly.
And yes, they're so powerful.
Like I agree with everything in theory.
Yes.
But in that moment, it's not, it's not so easy to translate what we need into words. So that's what we're going to help everybody do. And I spent the weekend ignoring all of the prep work actually not ignoring it, but I was ignoring re-editing and editing another talk that I have to give. And I made this infographic that I thought that we could share today, which would sort of give a fuller explanation to what these cards are all about.
Show us one of those cards up close and I'll pull up the share screen thing.
What, these cards?
Yes,
Oh,
yeah.
you have the
I do have the infographic, but
Yeah,
they're so gorgeous. I'm so excited. If you've seen her online posts, they're actually a physical thing now.
You want a different color. So they're color coded by my behavior compass, conflict compass. This is sort of where we can trace the three, and we'll talk about it today, but that's what they're color coded by. Stress, support, and skills. Those three areas that we want to target when we are having behavior challenges or difficulties. So, but we'll look at them up close on the screen.
All right. So I'll need a little feedback from you if you can see that. Okay, Lori?
Yes.
Okay. Do you want me to zoom in more? Oops.
No, that's too much. You were good the way you were.
Yep. That's good. Okay.
Yep. So everybody can see the screen now? I'm viewing, yeah. Let's see. Hi. Okay, good.
Yep.
All right. So should we just start?
Yes. Tell us about how to talk to kids without using blame, shame, judgment, or guilt.
Right. So the idea, so everybody, well, that first, I love the example that you gave in the reminder email, because how many of us have said something like, don't test me, or you're really pushing me, or you're testing my patience, or whatever it is. And while we feel that rush of emotion in the moment, that doesn't really give us the language that we need to convey to our kids what we really need to happen. It's so real. We still have to honor those emotions. So this is not about trying to stop parents from feeling things or stop them from having emotions. I'm sorry, I have a question. Do people still see us? Because now I feel like I'm talking in a vacuum. I'm not looking at you anymore, and it just
can you see me?
I can't see you. Am I supposed to be able to see you?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I wanted to find out, because now I'm talking and then I can't see you.
Oh yeah, it's hard when you feel like you're talking in a vacuum.
Yes.
Okay, so can you see me now?
I can't see you. I can hear you now. I can't see you. Can you guys see? Can everybody still see me?
They can see you, but they can't see Amy.
Can I see you?
Oh, it switches between us whenever I talk. You might change your view from speaker view to like both view. Oh, someone says she can see us both.
I know, and so, but I can't see anybody. I'm sorry. I just want to.
It's hard when you talk. Should we pull each other up on Facebook so you can look at me while I talk to you?
No, I shouldn't. Well, if you can see me, I should be able to see you too, right?
Yeah.
I'm just trying to go through the settings and see.
I changed mine to show thumbnail video. Well, like when you touch the pictures with your mouse. When you touch the pictures with your
pictures or pictures?
Like where you see me or you.
I don't see you. I don't see anything. Can you stop sharing your screen for 1 second?
I sure can.
And then maybe I'll change. Let me see if it's the view.
I have mine on speaker view, so I don't know if that.
It was on speaker view, but then when you shared your screen,
it switched.
Let me see. Share. It just went. Everything went away, and it was just sort of hard to focus on what we're saying.
No, it really is. Yeah.
I wasn't expecting that, so I have to. Now you're both switching screens, switching back and forth. So whenever we talk, is that what happens? But that's fine. I just want to be able to. What happens if I share?
Do you want to share your screen? Then you can still see me, and it may be less distracting.
Yeah, let me see if I can do that. Hold on. Let me pull up the photo.
Thanks everybody for your feedback. That was really helpful.
Okay. What did they say? Oh, that they could see us or not?
Mm-hmm. That they switch back and forth when we talk.
Okay. All right, let's see. So if I share my screen.
There you go.
Yay, you're there. Okay, good.
Yay.
Sorry, that's just much more helpful.
It is. Now I can see you, but maybe that's.
I don't know where you went when I couldn't see. All right, so let's zoom in here so that you guys can see this. Yes.
Yay.
Where's the Zoom?
You almost had it.
There we go.
Perfect.
Oops. Can you guys see that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the whole idea, let's get back on track. The whole idea of what I do is really to just remove from our language the blame, the shame, the judgment, and the guilt, so that we're not parenting with fear. We're really parenting, giving our kids quality feedback about their behavior, about how to change it, about their feelings, which are leading to their behavior. So everybody is often running around saying, I just need this behavior to stop. But we're never really addressing the root cause of conflict. So with these cards come, like I said, they're color coded. And the reason is because we want to target the root cause of conflict before we even say anything. A lot of the times we just need to let our kids have their emotions and not try to convince them out of them, not try to reason or logic, give them lots of logic and all of this stuff. So a lot of times just be quiet. But then after, when we're ready to start helping them understand what happened, or we want to get to giving them that quality feedback, we have to know what was wrong in the first place. So it's not just about they need to share, they need to learn to be nice, they need to learn to behave. Like, those are just such vague expectations that we put on children, and they don't really mean a lot, because in that moment sharing meant having to give up something, and there was emotion and experience and beliefs tied all into that, because that's what life is about, right? So this isn't like about coddling children or making a big deal out of everything, but simply just giving them information that will help them either soothe their stress, connect with them, provide them with the connection that they're asking for, or elevate their skills, right? The kids they have these emerging skills that are always trying to peak out, and developmentally, it's not a straight line, right? Amy, you're the professional here, that development, especially in that area where we're talking about children and their development is not just a typical straight line. It's not, this, and then this. It's like some of this and then back and forth, right?
Right.
Yeah. So can you hear me? You hear me, right? You're saying
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I wasn't sure if you were.
Yes. Development is like a creative process, right? Where there's
Oh, I love that. It is because it's like, and because our relationships, Dr. Dan Siegel tells us that our relationships influence how our brain develops, right? So it is creative because we're actually shaping development. We're influencing how our kids are able to regulate their stress, how supported they feel, and then whether we actually help their skills or whether we shut down their ability to learn and to practice their skills, because we're just so focused on behavior. So the first thing that we want to do is just target the root cause of conflict. And this is where we want to look, where do we put the first aid? Is it stress? Is it skills? Is it support? So when we look at stress, now it can be a combination of all of these things too, of course, because children, we're all different. There's different reasons for even the same situation if we have two different kids, because their experience and their skills and their support, all of that is going to be different for each child. But whenever you look at any behavior, just figure out, is my child overwhelmed right now? Is it they're freaking out because their sensory system is overwhelmed, because they've had a super long day and they're tired and they're just stressed out, or because some kids, like I said, sensory needs. Some kids are you've been shopping for 2 hours and the bright lights and the smells have finally overwhelmed your child. So they're not asking for the candy bar because they want to be, they just want what they want. They want candy and they want it. It's probably because they're trying to find some relief from the overwhelming stress that they're feeling, whether it's about worrying that they're not going to get home to watch their favorite show or see their friends, or it's taking too long. Like, all of this mental stress, sensory stress, easily overwhelms children. I mean, think about how easily we can get stressed out and overwhelmed. And so we take a kid with little experience. So stress, does my child need coping tools in this moment? Support. Sometimes my child is asking for connection. They just need me to connect with them, to acknowledge them, to validate them. And sometimes the relationship might be in need of repair. Like, I should probably even maybe alter this to explain that a little more clearly. So it's not just that your relationship is strained, but is your child just asking for connection right now in this moment? Connection is what's going to help me, right? I'm being mean to my little sister because I just need you to connect with me. And then skills. This is really important for little children, for those of you guys that have, 2, 3, 4, 5-year-olds that seem like they're always really reactive or they're not learning, but just developmentally, they're simply immature. It's a very important phase of their childhood to be immature and to, allow them to feel and express their feelings is really important. And not looking at that behavior and saying, oh, they're just, again, making it a character flaw, but realizing that developmentally, they're just not there yet. They're not mature enough to stop hitting. We actually have to physically go and restrain them and say, I'm not going to let you do that. I'm not going to let you hurt somebody, without putting all of the blame and the shame and the expectation that they should just stop, or you should know better, or that's not nice. And we get so upset with a developmentally appropriate action. While it might not be appropriate, to do in that situation or at all to hurt somebody, of course, developmentally, it's very natural for kids to be aggressive, to reach out, to lash out physically, especially when they're very little.
And to try to regulate themselves in those ways.
Yeah.
We had a comment. Kimberly says, I have 2 girls, 2.5 years and 13 months. My oldest is highly sensitive, and we have just recently started down this way of connecting and speaking with our children, but it's hard. And I just want to acknowledge that it is hard. It's hard for all of us.
Yeah.
And, I think that you're going to love these words that Lori gives you, because as you begin to really learn this language and practice this language, it does begin to get easier. It doesn't feel quite so overwhelming, and you won't freeze so often like, oh my gosh, what do I do?
Yeah, somebody posted on the Facebook page the other day. She's like, when I first started doing this, I felt really silly, but she said it's made a world of difference.
Yeah.
So once you find, it does feel silly because you're not able to just react the way you've been conditioned to react. So it's tough. It's like learning any new skill. The other big piece of this is, and we can't talk about it today, but I'm sure you've had other really amazing speakers that have talked about it, but is the healing what's really anchoring you, or what's really making you sad and dysregulated in those moments that you can't, because most of the time when we can't, it's because we don't feel enough emotional stability and calm and peace to be able to offer that to our children. Right. So it's not that we can't, it's just that we haven't nurtured ourselves enough, or we haven't really gotten to the root of our own pain. And stress skill support is just sort of this, you can use it for everything. It's not only where the root cause is coming from, it's also how you target the first aid that you apply.
Yeah.
It gives you so much information, and you can do it for yourself as well.
Yeah.
Why am I angry in this moment? Am I stressed out? Do I feel a lack of support? Have I not had any adult conversations in the last 2 days? Because someone with a 2-year-old, and did she say she had a baby on the way?
She's a 13-month-old and a 2.5-year-old. So
okay,
yes.
And they're so close in age, and I'm sorry. You just come to us, and we will just support you until they're 5.
Yes.
It's not easy. It's just not easy.
Right.
But having someone to come and just share that with helps your body and your mind go back to that place of mindfulness, and that's where you're able to then access how you really should talk to kids. Because once you know the basics, you will know what to say, but not until you're able to reduce your own stress.
Yeah. And it's a learning curve too. Like at first you might just say exactly like read it, right? And then you'll begin, maybe you'll mess up and you'll be like, ooh, next time I'm going to say this. Yeah. And so you get that moment where you're like, ew, that's not exactly what I wanted to do.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And then you just go, because it happens over and over, right? Your kids keep hitting each other, or they keep hitting the cat, or whatever it is that they do. So you're going to have ample opportunity to get it right.
And to hear yourself say what you don't want to say is, even if you say it, the fact that you're aware that you're doing it is huge, because most people most of us, if we're not, if we're really in that place of chaos and we haven't started down a conscious path, we're doing it without awareness, not realizing the impact that it's having, not realizing the messages that we're sending to our children every time, we get harsh with them, because it's not necessarily the message that we think we're sending.
Right.
It's not really what they take away is not what we think we're sending. I think it was Alfie Kohn that said it's not how we treat children, but it's how they regard the way that we treat them. So it's really how they feel about how we treat them, and not how we think that we're treating them. We think that we're being fair and that we're giving them the best opportunities and the best, we're giving them boundaries and all of this stuff, but how is it being delivered? Is it really being received in that way that it had hoped? So you may follow the scripts, but here's the other thing. Then people will get frustrated and say, well, I can't say all this. My kid won't sit and listen. So it's not about the words as much as it is about what's highlighted on the cards, which we should actually, if I can scroll down, I'll show you a little bit of one of the cards. These are sort of just a mini version. So it's not about, all of the exact things. I'm wondering if you're feeling sad about leaving me. Like somebody might say, well, that feels really awkward. So you might just go up to your kid and say, hey, kiddo, what's up? You look worried. It may be that you say, but you're validating, you're curious about what's going on. So it's about what is in the blue here that's most important, the intention behind the words, not so much the scripts, the exact scripts. So the scripts are there, the language is there to give you an idea of how to formulate, but please don't feel like this is the only thing you can say, or that you have to say everything that is on the cards that you see. They're really just ideas to help you feel just more supported in what you could say. Not that like this is say this and then everybody's perfect.
And your kid will let you know. If your kid shuts down when you start to talk, you just know it's not the right time. Right. And you just sit there and you think those thoughts to them, right? So you're just breathing and being with them. Yeah. Sorry, my dog is going to join us. She keeps trying to jump in my lap, and here she is.
Oh, look at that. I love that I really had this vision of a dog jumping up and joining the conference before, and I thought it was going to be my dog. And then Amy told me about
and it's mine.
And it turns out it's her dog that keeps doing this.
Yes.
Look at that.
I know. She's
all right, honey. That's super. He's distracting. I'm going to look over here. Totally cute and too much cuteness. So
there you are.
I made this infographic.
Let's get down
to help us to sort of explain the cards. Because the cards, I just got them in the mail. The new design had came out. And we had our designer. She made this amazing revamp of the cards that we already had, and I wanted to put this. So I started to put together some of the other like information for the extra cards to sort of explain just what I'm telling you guys. And so then I put together this infographic on Saturday. You
just put it together.
I totally got overwhelmed with the creative process and was like, let's do this. So it started out with just this little compass-like thing. That the first day I had that for the card.
It's so gorgeous.
Oh, I could make an infographic, and then I spent 14 hours doing this.
It's so beautiful. And we get to share it here. I'm so thrilled.
And here it is. Yes. So I thought this would actually be really great. So we target the root cause of conflict. What is it? Stress, support, skills, and might be some combination of all three of these for sure. That definitely happens. But once we target and we go, okay, know that it's support, that my kid is probably still having some trouble dealing with the fact that I got angry earlier with them, or that they had this moment with their sibling that was never really repaired. And so now this behavior where they won't share, where they're getting angry with each other is coming up because they need a little bit of repair in their relationship. Once we identify, or maybe it's skills, my child does not have very good executive function skills. So they're never doing their chores because, you know what, coming home from a day of school and then remembering or caring about something that doesn't interest us or that's hard, no, that's a skill. The ability to be self-disciplined like that, that's not saying, oh, you should care or you only care about yourself. It's really the ability to pay attention, to stay focused on a task and to complete it. these are skills that we need to give children. It doesn't mean that we just let everything slide, but that we don't come at them with judgment about who they are because they haven't done something. We get, go ahead, Amy.
Well, we have a couple of questions, so we might be able to use this card sort of in a practical application for some live questions.
Okay.
What do you think? Do you want to explain some more about this?
The card that we were.
Your infographic.
Oh, yeah, let's just go with the questions, and then we can
Okay.
use the infographic to say,
okay,
what might this be really, and then whoever put the question in can say, you know what, I think this is a stress challenge. Because then we can say, okay, we know what kind of first aid do we need for a stress challenge? Well, we need to regulate, we need sensory tools, we need to come in with a sense of calm.
Perfect. I love that.
Let's do that. Let's talk questions, and then we can sort of use this to.
All right. So if I'm about to read your question, feel free to go to the chat and sort of chat with us while we talk about your question. So I'm going to read Jenna R's question now.
I'm going to try to find how I open the chat again.
Cool. Jenna says, I have a 9-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 9-week-old. My 4-year-old loves his baby brother, but is having a hard time following limits and boundaries we set for safety. For example, shouting in baby's ear, squeezing the baby, shaking baby on his bouncy seat. It's mostly from love and enthusiasm. And I tell my 4-year-old that the baby loves him and loves gentle touches. He doesn't always respond with an adjustment in behavior, and I feel more reactive and triggerable, Mama Bear. How do I encourage safe choices around the baby?
So did you say this was the 4-year-old having a challenge or the 9-year-old?
The 4-year-olds with the baby, the 9-week-old baby.
Okay, so super common, and it does trigger Mama Bear when you see your little helpless 9-week-old there. 9 weeks?
9 weeks.
9 weeks. So you've still got all like the hormones raging and like everything. So we just, again, this is sort of like virtual hug time, because a lot of this is colored by your perspective, right? Your perspective right now is new mom to, like, your old mom, but new mom, not old, but you know what I mean? New mom to baby, number 3. And you've got 2 other people who still really depend on you. Maybe not the 9-year-old as much, but certainly the 4-year-old. And the 4-year-old is probably, like you said, excited, right? So there's a lot of joy and happiness that comes around this baby. But that baby is also a way for that 4-year-old to express a lot of feelings. Don't you think, Amy?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think probably there's a combination. Will you scroll up on your infographic towards the top?
Oops.
I was thinking about how, the 4-year-old doesn't have the skills. So even though you're telling him baby wants to be touched gently, he probably needs to be showed over and over and over again. This is how it is, and holding the baby with him, and whispering, come on, let's whisper to the baby, so you invite him, you sort of move close to your 4-year-olds.
The practice is the key.
Yes.
It's not just like you said, it's not just I've told him. It's
right.
Let's practice over and
let's
over
do
and
it
over,
together.
because a 4-year-old doesn't have that skill to restrain, especially when they're excited or mad or sad. Like, all of those really intense emotions are even more intense, because that's the part of their brain that's being developed right now, that emotional part of their brain for the 4-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
So everything is really heightened as far as their emotions are concerned. So it's not about telling, it's about us being able to then put in the boundaries and all of that practice that Amy just said. But like you said, it's a combination, I think, too, probably, depending on the situation.
Mm-hmm. Well, the 4-year-old wants that connection, and there's just a lot going on, and mama's tired, I imagine. And so adding the 3rd one, it's a whole new challenge for everybody, and figuring out how to make it work.
Wait, I have one for stop hurting the baby, I think. Or no, this one is when we are of course I can't find it right now, but when the new baby is taking up sort of the time. And And it may come out in behaviors that are like, I want to squeeze the baby. Well, maybe it's because you were just feeding the baby and holding the baby and loving the baby. So then the 4-year-old comes and, well, I want to do that too. I want to squeeze and hold the baby and love the baby just like that. But again, they don't have sort of that ability to be sensitive to the fact that the baby is little and or know their strength in that way. So it's not really about telling them, but about validating for them.
I think that's important. So she did say in the comments, that makes sense. If I do remind him, he will sometimes dig in with more of the same. So that's that validation piece that you can just go, oh my gosh, you really want to see the baby. You know, and so you're moving in close, you're smiling at him and giving him warmth, assuming he's not hurting the baby at the time, shaking him or squeezing him. Yeah. But you know, you put your arm on the shoulder, you smile, and you whisper to him and say, let's whisper like this. What should we tell the baby? I hope y'all could hear me. But you know, like that's what you do. Oh, look, you really want to touch him. You know, show me how you can touch him gently. Let's do this together, because he wants to connect with you. And he may need some help. His brain may need some help calming down. So your brain coming in to meet his brain to help him calm down in order to do that can be helpful. But he's 4, so it's not going to be like, let's be gentle, and he's gentle. It's let's be gentle, and we're doing this together, and it takes him 30 to 60 seconds
and I'm going to help you stop your body, your hands, whatever you have to say. But in that way that says, you're having trouble right now, I'm going to stop you. Now, here's the thing. If you have a 9-week-old, again, your tolerance may be a little bit low. You may be a little bit depleted right now. So give yourself some slack for not being able to always respond in the way that helps the situation move along, because sometimes you just can't. But then go back in those moments and you can repair. Because so even though that moment happened with your son, where maybe you or your 4-year-old, I don't know if it was a boy or a girl, so I didn't mean to say son, but so the 4-year-old, maybe you go back later and say, remember when you were squeezing the baby and I got really upset? You know, I made this face, and maybe you make that, you know, really ugly face that you made. I bet that was scary. And 4-year-olds probably think that you don't love them when, you know, that's what they think. When we make scary faces and use angry tones, and not just for this mom that, you know, you may not have gotten to that point yet, but there's plenty of us, I'm sure, that have. They think we don't love them. They just don't. They're just too. And I'm telling you, even when not even just a 4-year-old, but an 8-year-old or a 9-year-old or a 10-year-old, they rely so much on how we respond to them, not just on what we tell them about their behavior or what they should do, but really on how we respond to them, how it makes them feel is what they take away, and what their brains encode as safe situations or as situations that I should run and hide from. So the next time we want to practice a lesson or we want to teach them a skill, if they're remembering ugly faces and harsh, scary tones, they're not going to be very open to information or feedback that we have to give them, especially if then the next time it is really quality feedback, but they're still upset from earlier. Going back to, I think we had that example earlier, if they're still holding on to something from earlier, going back and sort of repairing that, will often you'll see that negative behavior sort of unravel into this emotional outpouring of what really needs to come out or to be addressed.
Thank you. We have another question.
Okay.
I like this question. I think that we can all relate to this one as well. Helen asks, can you talk about what age kids should be able to start using some of the skills we are teaching? I have a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old. The 3-year-old is obviously not old enough, but should I expect the 5-year-old to start using skills, especially sensory regulation or emotional regulation, or is he still too young?
Too young.
Too young. I mean, I like to use this example. I'll use myself. When I'm driving in traffic and someone cuts me off, my emotional regulation skills sometimes fly out the window, and I'm 44. And other times they don't, right? And other times I go, gosh, you must be in a hurry, right? But this, you know, the same is true for our children. emotional regulation centers of the brain are really just starting. I mean, it starts to develop in those first 3 years, right? That's where it's hardwired into our brainstem. But the ability to access it and use it, you really won't begin to see it consistently until age 8, 9, sometimes later in children.
It peaks out. Like you'll see moments, because this is the thing that
Absolutely.
confuses parents. Well, he was calm 5 minutes ago and he did it yesterday, and I know they can do it. But again, that straight line development.
Right. It's that creative process. Yeah. It's creating and recreating. And the more opportunity we give them to come in and connect with us in those difficult times, the more we're building that area of the brain and creating those connections so that they will be able to use those emotional regulation skills.
Yeah, and you'll see it. It may not be consistent, but you will see the growth. You really will see it when, when we respond to our kids in ways that are respectful, in ways that teach them self-regulation, in ways that model for them regulation. If we're yelling and screaming all the time, don't expect to see it. Like just don't. Like your kids, and if you do see it, it's because your kids are so worried that they're going to set you off that they're too afraid to act out. But kids they respond to how we treat them. So we can't be in a chronic state of stress, and not that anybody here necessarily is like yelling and screaming all of the time, but many of you may have grown up in homes that were like that, or in homes that there was no emotion, like we didn't talk about emotions at all. Either one of those extremes affected the way you're able to regulate your emotions today. So that's why it's so important to just take care of ourselves first. And if you're not really good at that emotional regulation, forget about your kids. Just let everybody go crazy and just take care of you. Like really work on creating peace inside yourself so that you don't have anything to give if you're not at that place. But yeah, so for the mom, back to the mom with the 5-year-old and the 3-year-old, it starts to peak out at 5.
Right.
And that's encouraging, for your kids to notice when they're having developmental steps, and notice when they're being independent. It goes a long way towards, encouraging their independence, instead of always going in and saying, why can't you do this, or why are you taking so long? Because that sends them, again, messages that they can't filter out when they're really little. Like they take that to mean I must suck, right? If you're saying this about me, that I'm taking so long and that I'm so this or that, it can send our kids this message and that's just our stress, right? We don't really mean that. Nobody means to, think these things about our kids or say that they're making us angry. We're not really meaning to go there, but our own stress can kind of get in the way. I got off topic. Let's go back to the topic.
Well, she said, she came back and said, this is one of the things that's so hard. I see it occasionally and then I expect it all the time. I'm so glad to know that he isn't old enough to use it all the time.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think parents feel a lot of relief when we say your kid is totally acting the way they should be acting for their age. Yeah. And even though you don't see that immediate behavioral change, just have faith that what you're doing does have impact, but it's just that you might not see that impact until later. Just in the same way as a kid with early trauma, you may not see that trauma until they're a teenager.
Right.
You may not see all the negative stuff until they're a teenager, but you might not see all that great positive stuff until they're older either. They may go through stages where they completely don't even want to be near you or talk to you. And that's and as long as that's not, I'm completely removing myself from all family activities and all connection, that's a normal part of breaking away and connecting with their peer group and finding out, and just growing up, especially in middle school years. So I think our kids, that development, like you said, it's a creative process. It's not, and at 13, you may say, oh, well, they should be able to regulate. But just like Amy said, sometimes the stress is too much. Yeah. And our emotional regulation goes right out the window.
It does. Yeah. Thank you. We have another question. Penelope says, can you hear me okay?
I can. I was just trying to find the chat.
Oh, good. Okay. It's easier to read it. Penelope says, I have a 9-year-old and an 8-year-old. The 8-year-old has an IEP at school for working memory and phonetic skills with mentions of focus and ADHD. Getting him to organize himself and focus for homework and cleaning up after himself is very tough. You've mentioned creating visuals, which I've done. What specific techniques can you recommend for creating rituals and routines, as you've mentioned? I have some in place, but he doesn't seem to care.
How old?
A 9-year-old and 8-year-old. So this is the 8-year-old.
Yeah. So 8-year-olds don't really have a lot of executive function.
Right.
I mean, even with the challenges that may come along with that, I mean, most 8-year-olds wouldn't. So what are the expectations that we're missing here? I mean, what is the challenge? What is the...
So the challenge is wanting him to be organized, to focus for homework, and to clean up after himself.
I mean, I just think, you guys, it's too much. Mm-hmm. And I hate to be that person, but it's too much for an 8-year-old to be expected to do homework, clean up, and what was the other one?
Focus.
See, I can't even remember. But I'm successful in life, right? So it's not everything, no.
Right.
These are skills. Practicing emerging skills is great, but these skills are emerging. Executive function is like a 13-year-old skill, right? To be able to do homework alone and clean up and do chores, developmentally, I'd say it's just too much to ask of an 8-year-old. Mm-hmm. So all of the things that you're putting in place are probably strengthening those skills, but he needs side-by-side guidance. He isn't interested in it because, one, it probably feels too hard, right? So here's an idea of what do we say, right, when it feels too hard? Because just because it feels hard and our kids have challenges doesn't mean that we just let them, right? It doesn't mean that we just ignore it. We keep putting in those supports and the visual, guides and aids. I mean, you said we could give more ideas, but it sounds like she's already putting in some of those. Mm-hmm. But then it's about not judging the outcome and letting your child's development unfold. So if he's not doing, this is chores, but you could say, homework. You could say, you're not, of course we want to avoid the demands, you're not going anywhere, playing until this is finished, homework, chores, whatever. And then sometimes we want to say, well, if you would just, this is chores, but not homework. Let's just take homework because I have one about homework. But I think it says, like, if you would just, do it, you would have been done by now. You only have 15 minutes of homework, which I encourage them, egg them on by giving them, positive information, like it'll only take a really short time, or it won't be that bad. But what is the real challenge? Working memory and focus, those are two really specific challenges. That means break it up into really small pieces so that he can keep his focus, but he doesn't have to keep it for 15 minutes. He only has to keep it for 5 minutes on one activity. Right. So breaking up homework into really small bits is a way to help him practice. So he doesn't think he has to face, because here's the thing, if the kid has trouble focusing, organizing their stuff, they're going to avoid the homework because I always use this example, but I go to my refrigerator and I open it and I see all kinds of ingredients of things that I could make for dinner. But then I shut the refrigerator and I go sit on my couch because I have no idea where to even begin. Right. That's what it kind of feels like for a kid trying to figure out where to start with homework that feels too overwhelming and too confusing and unorganized to even start. So we don't go in and say, you've got plenty of things, just make something, right? That I get a menu or I get a plan, or, and I shop for ingredients ahead of time. So what do? We have a plan in place. An 8-year-old's going to need someone probably to help them do homework with them. So does he do it while you're making dinner? Is it something that we can connect with an older sibling, or is there somebody that can be that support partner with them? But breaking it up is another thing for focus. And then just avoiding pushing our kids by, we want to be curious. Like, I noticed that you haven't finished your homework. Tell me what the toughest subject is that you have. So now we're curious about what's maybe preventing them. And you might get more information than just, science. You might be like, it's a science project and I don't even know where to start. I have to read 2 whole pages and they go on with all of the things that are worrying them or scaring them or feel overwhelming to them. And so we just acknowledge and validate what that is, or maybe we just prompt them with a question. I noticed that your homework isn't finished. How much do you have left? And it's not go do it, hurry up, finish it until, punitive. It's let me investigate the situation.
Right. I want to get curious and understand. I also want to say, like, kids have been in school all day. The idea of coming home and doing more work after they've worked all day is exhausting.
And for an 8-year-old, it's unreasonable.
It's totally unreasonable.
It really is. There's a lot of people that do opt out of homework, especially a third grader doesn't need to be doing homework.
Yeah, it's exhausting. I would encourage you all to look at the literature. There's a lot of research literature out there that says that instead of supporting learning, homework actually takes away from it, because what they need to be doing when they're done with their 7 hours of school is playing and decompressing and letting out the stress and giving their brain room to learn.
Yeah, playing. I mean, that ability to play and to be free and creative is what grows their brain. That homework is not doing anything but stressing them out. And if you find that it's stressing your kid out to the point where their behavior is changing or their mood is changing, please let it go. Mm-hmm. This is not the place where I advocate for homework or skill building. This is the place where I say I advocate for your sanity and your kid's sanity and say let the homework go because it's not important. Something like chores, where we're trying to build a sense of unity and community within our family, it's sort of the same thing. Look at the age of the child, and maybe the 8-year-old doesn't like the chore that they chose or that they've been assigned. So can we revisit? Can we reevaluate? Can we say, it seems like you really just don't like doing this, but share. It's important to me that everybody contributes, and I don't want to fight about this, but I want to know what's going on for you. This tells your kid that I have an interest in your life and how you feel and about helping you change, rather than I'm just judging you and shaming you for not meeting my expectation, which is what a lot of our advice and logic ends up sounding like to our kids. But if we just go curious, if we can share authentically about what we need, about what we feel, we can, what happens? Not only are they able to self-regulate better, because I have a really sensitive kid, but she is able to, her social emotional skills, because of our relationship, because of my ability to go back and apologize and repair, and my desire and determination and commitment to staying empathetic with her and not judging and shaming, has made her so, she's still a sensitive kid. She still has challenges. She doesn't crack under the weight of worry and anxiety and stress like I did as a kid. Right, being highly sensitive, but living in a harsh, judgmental, critical environment where I was always punished for messing up and I was, blamed and shamed. It's just different. Like the relationship has such a difference. Now, little kids, obviously, right? When she was 5 and 7, she was 5 and 7. Her behavior was different, but I know that our relationship has shaped the way that she's been able to regulate, has shaped the way she's able to motivate herself, even with things that she doesn't like to do. So our connection and our ability to stay empathetic, curious, non-judgmental, just has such an influence on those skills that develop later, that we'll see later, if we can just have that confidence now.
I'm glad you said that too, because when they do have to do something, when they do need to, maybe there is some homework that you're like, what, I don't care what the research says, they're going to do it, or we have to get through this year, we have to do the homework. Or if it's cleaning up, really the best way to help is to move close and be there, like as a quiet presence. Picking up can be picking up with them. The visual charts, if they're helping, I would say, let him create it with you. Let him be connected to that chart that you're making together for like a rhythm and a routine.
Can I say something? The other thing is that don't get upset and reactive when you hear the first no.
Yeah.
So you're like, let's clean your room. I asked you nicely. I told you, la la la, go clean your room. No, I don't want to. And then we're like, I was nice, I was empathetic, I gave them time. And then but no, be like, what's the boundary if we don't have, like, cleaning a room? Like, are we not moving on to whatever activity? Is there what is the boundary that we've set up ahead of time? So I used this example of my daughter who had came in to, this was actually a couple of years ago, but she was like 9. She was old enough to clean up, right? In my view, expectation. She was ready to work on this skill, essentially. And she came in and she threw a whole bunch of confetti around the room that she made. She had cut it all up and she was so proud of herself. She was like, look what I did. She threw it all over. And then she started to leave the room. And I was like, whoa, wait a minute. There was confetti, little paper all over the room. She was just like, I'm going back to watch TV. I'm like, oh, no, you're not. You're going to clean this up because you just made this mess. I don't want to clean it up. Right? And I could have gotten really upset with the, no, I don't want to clean it. Like, how dare you? What do you think? You could just come in and throw stuff all over and not clean it up and blah, blah, blah. I could have gone there. Could have gone down that path. But I was in that moment going, I'm going to use this example. Sure. So that's what kept me calm. And I was like, okay. Breathe in all of that stuff that I just felt and heard said in my head. Like, no, I don't think so. And I'm like, okay, well, we do have to clean up before we go back and whatever she was doing, watching TV or playing, I forget what she was doing. We're not going back to do that until this is cleaned up. And she was like, no. And she stood there and she hemmed and hawed and she just wasn't really agreeable. But I just let her have all of that feeling. And what came with it wasn't what you were expecting. You didn't expect that it would probably make this big of a mess and that you'd have to clean it up. And then I stopped there. I didn't go, but you have to, but you should, but now it's not like a moment for I told you so.
It's so hard to resist sometimes.
Right, I know. I'm so there with you. But I didn't. Because what would that do, right? If somebody gets sarcastic with me and that I told you so, what am I going to do? I'm going to shut down. I'm going to get defensive back. I'm going to, I'm going to trade. We're just going to trade wit at that point.
You're just going to dig in harder, right?
Exactly.
I'm really not cleaning it up now.
Totally. You think you can say that, control me? Well, you can't tell me what to do. I mean, she's been doing that. You can't tell me what to do since she was 2. So.
Oh, yeah.
So know your kid. So I was like, okay, I just waited. I'm like, you don't like it. And she tried to leave the room, but she didn't. I think she was trying to go back to the iPad. I think that's what it was. I'm not going to let you do that. I'm not going to let you, return to your game. You have to clean this up. You help me. The extent of my help was, here is the dustpan and because she wasn't 5, like needing the practice, right? 5-year-old I would do it with. A 6-year-old, I'm going to do it. She was like 9 at this point. But I'm going to, be here for you. You can tell me how much you hate this. I just listened to all of that. And the whole thing probably took maybe 10 minutes, but we could have spent that 10 minutes arguing, getting defensive, her shutting down, refusing, me demanding. Like, we could have, and even longer, we could have spent 15 or 20 minutes getting upset about the whole thing. And it was just my ability to not be offended by the fact that she didn't want to do it. Like, I didn't take that personally. Sometimes we take that personally from our kids say no, and we're like, oh, after all I've done for you, you say no? Are you kidding me? And we get really worked up. But I just kept breathing through that moment. I set the boundary. We're not going to return to what we were playing. I'm going to listen. This is hard. You didn't like it. I don't remember all the words, but that was essentially the conversation that we had. And she did it. And she huffed and puffed and she did it and she made faces, and then she went to her room and she calmed down and we moved on. And what did she build in that moment? I could have denied her the opportunity to, because here's the thing, that cleaning up took a lot for her because she's free and la la la, and she just wants to go play and not have that responsibility. So building responsibility is not about, oh, I want to have responsibility. It's a brain skill to be able to stop what we're doing, restrain ourselves from that instant gratification or whatever we're getting from the game or whatever we're playing with, and do something that's hard, that takes focus, a little bit of attention. And again, for a young child, we think, oh, it'll take 2 seconds to clean up, but it's not. For a kid. It's a bigger deal. There's a lot of steps involved. So I gave her the opportunity to in a non-judgmental space, work on that skill, because that skill was important in that moment. It wasn't about our relationship in that moment. It wasn't about her being stressed out. It was literally about her working on being responsible for our actions and learning how to, because what does it mean to be responsible, to be accountable for what we do? And so that was just my little story where it could have gone a completely different way. And I just stayed in that moment, and I didn't take no. That was what I wanted to say. I was like, don't take that first no so seriously. Personally or seriously. Just be like, okay, so tell me more about this, Like, I want to know more about the no.
Right.
Don't feel like you need to just investigate the no.
It's such an important opportunity for her to be able to sit with that discomfort too, without you shutting her down. Oh, it's acceptable for me to have these big emotions. That's a lot of building of emotional regulation right there, where you get that opportunity to be upset and be accepted in that upset. That is what builds resilience and emotional regulation.
Yeah. And allowing her to be uncomfortable with not wanting to do something, allowing her to be in that immaturity, because I could have, again, judged her for not wanting to clean up as if, that's disrespectful or, or irresponsible. Like, I could have judged it with all of those adult perspectives that I would maybe expect an adult to clean up after themselves if they threw something all over, the workroom. But for her, often we will take that adult perspective and put it on our children. So just to allow her to not want to do something and be okay that doesn't mean she's a bad person. It just means she's having a moment right there. And just like we all have moments, I think if we can let our kids have ugly moments, especially at home. And by ugly, I mean sad, distressed, angry, rejecting. I mean, my kid, just like any kid, she will push away when she feels threatened by whatever it is, an obstacle or, me saying, even if it's just something I say no to, a boundary, if she, something she really wants and feels threatened, she's going to push back. But we talk about, if she says something, a word that's not acceptable in our house, I don't push back in that moment and try to get all teaching a lesson about the words that she's using when she's stressed out by having this emotional experience. I wait. I help her deal with the stress. We regulate, we use sensory tools, we take space. And then the skill building maybe comes back in when I reconnect and I say, I don't really like being called stupid. I know that you were really angry. Would you be willing to? And then what else can we do? Or how can I help you in that moment? Giving them the benefit of the doubt. Like, I know that you wouldn't say those things if you weren't really upset. That my kid will just melt, and I'm so sorry, and she hears that validation to know that, no, I don't think you're a bad person because you acted like that. You made a mistake. Letting kids have their mistakes is so much more valuable than trying to change their behavior all the time.
We have a piggyback question, Lori, that talks exactly about what you're talking about. And I think it's great. So I'm going to read it out loud.
Okay, and then it's our last. We're just going till 1, right?
We're just going to 1.
Okay, just because I've got a class after this. So
yes.
1:15, so I wanted to make sure that we were.
That's supposed to be our last question. And I will try to download these other questions and we can maybe answer them in the Q&A.
Yes, definitely.
Laura says, I reflect sometimes on the notion of consistency. Using the confetti or another cleaning example, I wonder if we can allow a child to say no sometimes and offer help to model compassion and joy in helping someone that doesn't have the resources in that moment. I find it so connecting to do that for my child, and it feels more like a partnership. Can you speak about the idea of consistency? I think that can feel like a lot of pressure. If I'm not consistent, my child will not turn out well. I love that she asked this, because there are times when I am not going to do the laundry or pick up or do the dishes. There are times when I'm not going to do my chores because I don't have exactly what you said. I just don't have what I need in that moment. And I think there are times to do that. There are times when we say, you know what, my kid just doesn't have the resources right now to do that. And understanding, and they'll let us know. You will absolutely know if you talk about, if you check in on their support and their stress and their skills that Lori has talked about, they will let you know if they just don't have the resources.
Yeah, that's why I said in that moment, specifically in that moment for my kid, I knew that it wasn't about any of those things. This was really just an opportunity for her to build a little bit of, just work on some responsibility because she was old enough. But definitely if she had been, if kids are stressed out by other factors, maybe you just moved and everybody's really stressed out, or there's a new baby, or there's a new school transition, or take into account what's going on in your kid's world or in your lives in general, and definitely take into account when, there's circumstances that need you to just be, a supportive partner in a more active way. I was being a supportive partner in, and not in the physical action of her cleaning up, but just emotionally. But sometimes, I would absolutely go and help her, because here's the other thing: when kids ask for our help, it's because they want to feel like we love them, not because they want us to do things for them. It's because they want to feel connected to us.
And I think, like giving our children the words like, okay, I see you really don't want to do this. Or my daughter now will say, you know what, Mom, I can't do it right now. And then just saying, okay, well, let's talk about when you think you can. Do you need 10 minutes? Do you need 30 minutes? I'll do it when I'm 17, Mom, right? Like you got to be realistic, but sort of letting them tell us when they can do it, or for really young children, of course, I always say, join them. And maybe you don't have the resources you need to join them, and you might just say, forget it, we're not going to clean up right now. We'll do it after we have some coffee or whatever.
I don't think that there's the idea of consistency is that, we have to be consistent in that we're available for our children.
Yeah. Emotionally consistent.
Yeah, but not that we follow some sort of, rules of what to do in this situation and not to do in this situation. It's just like, be authentic, be real, and be as available as you can. And if you're not available, then give your child that authentic honesty, just saying, I need to take some time.
Right.
Especially if you have like an older child, 5, 6, 7, they can recognize I'm upset, and you taking that time to go regulate yourself so that you can be available for them. Doesn't say, I'm not consistent, I'm not available. It's, when Mom isn't feeling regulated, she goes and takes care of herself. That's the message that you send. This is how I take care of myself, because my kid will go get space. If there's conflict happening that she can't deal with in the moment, she'll remove herself, either find help or regulate herself to go back into the moment and then deal with it, because she knows how to take care of herself now, instead of like yelling at other people or just trying to get her way, which is a very immature young child natural thing to do. But now that she's 11, it's not, people expect more of her. She's able to handle more. But here's the other thing I just want to say about kids who we think are able, or they should be old enough. They may not have developed the skill when they were younger because of whatever experience or whatever was going on. So you may have an 11-year-old who seems like an 8-year-old, because developmentally, that part of their brain that is responsible for regulating their emotions and keeping them connected to their thoughtful brain, that it needs more to be strengthened. Those connections need more practice and experience. So don't look at the chronological age of your child and think, well, they should be, because if they're not, they're telling you that they're not. I'm not able to regulate. So what do we need? Stress, skill support or relational support.
Yeah, I think that's so important. What should our kid be able to do? Exactly what they can do right now. And the things that they can't do, that's just, like a signal. Okay, this is something they can't do. So let's put this on our list of building skills or meeting emotional needs.
Yeah, because developmental timelines they're there to give us a guide. Mm-hmm. But everybody's experience is so different, and everybody's everybody's different, and every kid is different. So.
Lori,
Amy,
thank you.
It's so fast.
This infographic. I love that you've got these cards printed. I really cannot wait. Can I be like first to order them, please?
Well, we're going to do a Kickstarter campaign to raise the funds to print them because it's quite a big project to actually do this and to make them available at a price that everybody could actually afford.
Right.
Because you have to sort of mass produce them and that whole thing. So we're going to run a Kickstarter so that I hope that you will be right by my side helping to spread the word about raising them, because you will definitely get cards. And actually there's a lot of opportunity for people that want to be on the social media team to get decks of cards, you know, to get a deck when they're printed once we run the Kickstarter. If you want to be on the campaign to spread the word, you can definitely fill out the form, contact me, get in touch, and we will do that for sure. But yes, Amy, I'm looking forward to getting you a deck to use with clients and online and everything. So
I'm so excited. Thank you, Lori, for being here. Thank you, listeners, for being here. Questions we didn't get answered, please feel free to go to the Facebook event and ask the questions, and we will do our best to answer them then. Lori is actually going out of town. She is probably full, but
this week is crazy, but I will try to go back to the Facebook page and definitely check in with you guys. I'm going out of town Wednesday. I have a bunch of classes today, and it is a crazy week, but after Saturday, I will be a little more calm and able. So definitely post your questions. I'd love to want to connect with you guys again. Thanks everyone too for joining us live here.
Yes.
It's the time out of your day to be here. So
yes. Thank you so much.